Hey guys, welcome to the Good Fight TV. I am Fighter for JC, and today I'd like to talk about Daniel Cormier. More specifically, how legit is his championship? A lot of people are saying that in order to be the man, you have to beat the man. In this case, the man was or is John Bones Jones. Jones, of course, defeated Daniel Cormier by a unanimous decision. And Jones ran into some trouble, some legal troubles outside of the octagon, and the UFC had no choice but to strip him of his title, leading to the elimination match between Anthony Johnson and Daniel Cormier, which of course Cormier won. Over the past weekend, Daniel Cormier beat Alexander Gustafsson in a dogfight. It was a gutsy performance by both guys. And Daniel Cormier walked away with the victory and with the first successful defense of his title. So is Daniel Cormier the real light heavyweight champion of the UFC? Is he the best light heavyweight in the world today? Well, the answer to that is simple. Yes, absolutely. Daniel Cormier, as of right now, is the best light heavyweight in the world and the real UFC light heavyweight champion. Why? Well, it's because John Jones technically is not even in the UFC right now. He's not even a professional fighter. So how could you possibly rate someone who is not in the roster higher than anyone who is in the roster? Now, as soon as John Jones comes back, I admit that the distinction of being the best light heavyweight in the world immediately goes away from Daniel Cormier and back to John Jones. There's no doubt John Jones is, in my opinion, already probably the best MMA fighter of all time. Well, I guess, we'll see. But he might as well be, in my book. But until the UFC makes that official announcement that John Jones is, in fact, coming back and he's going to be in the UFC roster, then to me, Daniel Cormier is the legitimate light heavyweight UFC champion of the world. And not only that, I feel that he is the best light heavyweight in the world. Now, I've been reading over the internet a lot of comments that people make about Daniel Cormier on why or why not he's the legitimate champion. Somebody brought up that in order to be the champion or the legitimate champion, you have to be invincible, you have to be dominant, you have to be unstoppable. Now, I completely disagree with that. Well, for one thing, though, let's get this out of the way. I do believe that Cormier, outside of John Jones, has proven his dominance pretty much against anybody, against all sorts of fighters, bigger guys, quicker guys, until Gustafsson. I don't think Cormier has had any real trouble with any of the guys he's beaten in the past. Of course, John Jones he didn't beat, so you can't count that into the equation. But Cormier has been pretty much steamrolling the competition just as much as John Jones did. But regardless, I think vulnerability is just as important a trait for any champion as invincibility is. I mean, everybody loves a monster heel or, just an unstoppable force that nobody can beat. We had the Mike Tysons in the boxing world. And, we have John Jones, maybe Brock Lesnar before he showed his true colors. People thought him to be unstoppable. And that's a great thing to have as a champion. But there's another side to the coin. People love a Rocky-like champion. We got Frankie Edgar who overcomes the odds against stronger guys, more physically able guys. And people love that. They love the fact that a champion who has shown vulnerability is able to come back from adversity. And I think with the victory against Gustafsson, Daniel Cormier showed us that. We've seen him dominate guys like Dan Henderson, other guys, we've seen him dominate. But to see this side of Daniel Cormier where he really gets pushed, you really see him get swollen up, busted up, and nearly knocked out, and to come back from that and to get on the offensive and take the fight to Gustafsson and still be the aggressor. Now, that's also a very important characteristic any champion could have. And I think invincibility is not the most important thing, so I disagree with that. And as far as having to beat the man in order to be the man, I disagree with that as well. Just going back to pro boxing again, we've seen many instances in which the reigning champion doesn't give the next guy a chance to beat him. Either he retires with the championship or he moves up in weight. There are lots of reasons that the next guy in line doesn't get the opportunity to fight the incumbent. And in this case, it's not Daniel Cormier's fault that Jones ran into all the trouble that he did. And when Jones did that to himself, the opportunity presented itself to Daniel Cormier, and he burst right through it. And you can't fault Cormier for doing that, and it doesn't lessen his status as the light heavyweight champion of the world. So I don't agree that you have to beat the man in order to be the man. I mean, that's just tough talk. That's street cred talk. But the reality of it is, Daniel Cormier doesn't make the rules. That's if the UFC had rules that stated you got to beat the man in order to beat the man, then that's something else. But that's not in the rule book. You got to respect the rules. And like I said, there's been many instances, in the world of combat sports where the champion leaves his division for whatever reason, retires with the championship, moves up in weight, or maybe runs into trouble, with the law like John Jones did. Who knows? But the guy doesn't always get the opportunity to beat the man, and you can't take anything away from Daniel Cormier for not beating the man. And he might yet beat John Jones. You never know. I doubt that he will. I think stylistically, he just doesn't match up well against John Jones, and John Jones needs to fight someone who is at least as tall as he is, like Gustafsson. Someone who he can't just keep at bay with his reach and his long legs. So I think that's a key factor in defeating John Jones. But if anyone who's a lot smaller than Jones could beat him, it's going to have to be Daniel Cormier. So again, the question of whether or not Cormier is the legitimate light heavyweight champion of the world, I think there's no real debate on that. I think he absolutely, without a doubt, is the true UFC light heavyweight champion of the world. And as of right now, while Jones is technically still out of the UFC landscape, then Cormier is also the best light heavyweight in the world. And that's all we have today, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Again, my name is Fighter for JC. Please be sure to leave your comments here. I'd love to respond to each and every single one of them. And press that like button. I appreciate you guys watching. Until next time.